With the 7th generation coming to a close and the 8th generation just starting, what is it that we have to look forward to? Well, given what we were shown at the events and trade shows that have been held, looks like better graphics is all. And while that sounds pessimistic, it's not. But allow me to answer a question that people have been asking me. What are my thoughts on the PlayStation 4? I made a video about the Xbox One and the Wii U, and some people said I should make a video about the PS4. There's honestly nothing I could say about the PS Quadruple. Let's look at the history in a nutshell. The PlayStation was a revolutionary 3D system that used CDs as its media. The PS2 offered better graphics and used DVDs for storage media, and it was a DVD player, making it an all-in-one system for its time. Then the PS3 used Blu-ray, played Blu-ray DVDs, had online services, streams media through the internet for free, can download games like all the 7th generation home systems, etc, etc, etc. So what does the PS4 have to offer? Nothing much. It has a record feature allowing you to record the last 15 minutes of game footage to share through social media, and allows the streaming of game footage through Twitch or Ustream. I'm not that impressed with it, especially when past social media integration annoyed me, as my friends would spam their trophies or achievements constantly and clog up my newsfeed or whatever. And unlike the Xbox One, the PS4's hard drive is replaceable. To me, the PS4 is more of the same. Not that that's a bad thing. Sony has been hitting the nail on the head with their systems by bringing in new things that would become the standard. Sony has been smart on what they do with their systems. Sure, the PS3 tripped at launch, but it picked itself up, and it was extremely difficult to develop for, taking anywhere from 9 to 12 months to develop a graphics engine for it. But according to Mark Cerny, who was on the development team, the PS4 has fixed that by reducing the time to build a graphics engine to 1 to 2 months, much like the original PlayStation. Now the Xbox One, and for the purposes of this video will be shortened to X1, offered some new stuff that I thought was pretty cool. The TV integration was interesting. It may not have been a feature I would use, and I find it to be really redundant, or the whole football thing, but I can see that there's a market for it. Although it looks like Microsoft was catering to the stereotypical Xbox user, who is usually portrayed as a party-hard frat boy that does nothing but watch football and play Call of Duty all day. I like the improved voice commands, and the Skype integration was neat, and the whole snapping things was a cool feature. I thought the game library sharing that you can do with family members was a good idea, but then Microsoft took it away when they reversed all those boneheaded policies that Don Mattrick defended, and ignored consumer concern when those policies were announced. Then he left for Zynga in the usual corporate fashion of resign or you're fired. Although Microsoft seems to have brought back that library sharing in some form or another. I don't know. It's cool, but at the same time, I don't really care about it because it's something I'm not going to use. The PS4 and X1 are also running very similar hardware. Both are running a CPU that is using x86-64 architecture, which is the same as your PC. Which I assume making games for will be like making games for a PC, which seems to make developers happy, as some have stated that the original Xbox and the 360 were like PCs when it came to development. Both systems are running a type of AMD processor and using AMD Radeon graphics chips. It's also totally possible that all that horsepower under the hoods of the PS4 and X1 isn't really going to mean anything. Which brings up some questions as how games will run on PC, as Nvidia and Radeon graphics sets can do different things. For example, a YouTuber known as Total Biscuit was doing a first impression of the Tomb Raider 2013 game, and he demonstrated a hair effect that only works on Radeon cards, but would mess up on Nvidia cards, which is what he was running. Also, Nvidia has PhysX, which in my personal experience on my old computer that had a Radeon card didn't really work. I don't think that it will affect PC games all that much, if at all, but it's just something to think about. I do wonder how well 8th generation games will run on my PC. It can play 7th generation games on the highest settings with no issue, so I assume that I may have to tone down things for 8th generation games to improve performance. And when it comes to games, the two systems aren't really going to offer much when it comes to what can be done with the games. We'll mostly see the same things we've seen on PS3 and 360. The graphics will just be better is all. The levels aren't going to be any bigger, the adventure isn't going to be any longer. The reason for that is that no one wants a game to overstay its welcome. And of course, RPGs are exempt from this because they're supposed to be long. Would you really want to play a game where it took you 30 minutes to complete a level and there was 30 or more levels? Look at Sonic Heroes. That had 14 levels that you had to go through 4 times, and some of those stages could take anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes because they were huge. Games like Mario Galaxy are fine, as there is a bare minimum needed to complete the game, allowing you to skip over sections as long as you have the required stars. So you can return to those extra levels at your leisure and are not required to play them. But the main adventure from beginning to end will probably be the same length as games are now, which is about 8 hours on average. But they'll probably add a lot of extra stuff to do on the side, extra missions or quests, which will send you to areas you normally wouldn't go during the main storyline, stuff like that. Game size probably won't increase that much in the coming years either, as games rarely go above 8 gigs in size now. Although with the improved graphics the polygon count will be increased, so it's possible that game size may double or triple. We won't know until the games are released. When I was in college for animation, which included some game design courses, one of my teachers had said that the 7th generation was going to be either the third to the last or second to the last of game consoles, as graphics are going to get to a point where they're photorealistic. And here we are moving into the 8th. And my teachers were in the film and gaming industry, so I can't say that they didn't know what they were talking about. I bring this up because the demos that Sony showed off, some of those graphics looked real, and the PS3 itself had some really impressive looking games, like Metal Gear Solid 4, where there were times things looked real. Eventually graphics will hit a photorealistic peak, which may be in the 9th generation. Now I'm going to briefly touch on portables because there's really not that much to talk about. The 3DS and Vita are 8th generation handheld systems. In my Schrodinger's Wii U video, some people brought up the prospect that the 3DS will supersede the Wii U, especially with Nintendo pushing more titles to that system. Gamers may just forget the Wii U and stick with the 3DS, which could actually benefit Nintendo in the long run, seeing as they dominate the handheld portable market. The Vita is pretty much in the same boat as the Wii U, a good system that doesn't have many games. But unlike the Wii U, I have a reason to buy it as I have PS3 games that have the cross-buy offer, so I could slap down $200 and not worry about buying games for a while, as I could do that cross-save thing and continue my game when I'm not home. This cross-buy and cross-save thing is what's really going to save the Vita. I'm not expecting the 8th generation to be a giant leap for the industry. It looks to be more like the next step. Although the 7th generation was more of a step, but then it wasn't until a couple of software updates that they became the media centers they are now, so who knows. And next time I'm going to be talking about why another video game crash is highly unlikely.